Pablo Neruda continues his praise of words, and he says that words are very, very powerful. Words are like living things, and he says that words are like any object or other words. Words are everything, and words contain everything. The very world exists in the word, and he says that words have shadow. So what does it mean? Words have shadow. It means words can imply many things. Shadow. Words have. So if I have a shadow means other than the real very physique of me standing there. Okay, there is somebody part of me is okay. There is another layer of me behind me, that is my shadow. Similarly, word can imply anything. So words have shadow, transparence, and weighty feathers, hair, and everything they gathered from so much rolling down the river, from so much wandering from country to country, from being roots so long. So words have feathers, hair, and they're just like birds. Maybe like they could be like swans, like birds flying because they have feathers, they have wings, and they have hair. Of course, so here you have maybe the words are just personified into, of course, living creatures like birds, women or men with hair, with creatures. So a number of poetic expressions, of course, very very powerful, surreal kind of images in which we see shadows. Okay, shadows of the words, transparent, weighty feathers, hair, and everything they gathered from so much rolling. So all this, the shadow, the hair, the feather, weighty feather, everything they gathered from the rolling from country to country. So from being roots so long. So each and every word, a word is having so many roots. Say for example, when you just look at the word salvation, salvation, the very word English, salvation, the very word comes from salus. Okay, so salus in Latin salus becomes salvation. Similarly, you have the word amicably. So the relationship between India and China are settled amicably. Amicably means friendly, and amicably or amicable, that very word comes from the Latin word amicus. Amicus means friend. So you will understand that as the just like a stone which is just rolling from a particular part of river to, of course, another part, and as the stone is rolling and rolling and rolling, right, it will be just changing its shape, and by the end of that very long passage of rolling in the river, the stone has a beautiful shape. Similarly, words are like those stones rolling in the rivers. As they roll down a very long river, they move from, of course, from Mississippi River, a stone can come to the Thames River. From Thames River, of course, the same stone may come to, of course, right, the River Ganges, or from River Ganges, the same stone can come, of course, to the Brahmaputra, or say same stone from Brahmaputra can come to, of course, Krishna River. Krishna River, the same stone can come from Krishna River to our own Bharatapuzha or the Nila River. So as the word is just moving from place to place to place to place, it is having a number of shadows, feathers, hair, and all. That is the kind of beauty of words, but the great potential of words. And now they are very ancient and very new. Words are ancient and very new. So same word, okay, was there in the first century. It was in the second century, fifth century, 10th century, 15th century, 20th century, even 21st century. So they are ancient and new. They live in the Bayer. What does it mean? Bayer, I told you. Bayer is, of course, that mound of wood on which a dead body is cremated. So in the in the Bayer, in the wood in which a person is going to be cremated, of course, there is death. That person, a poet is dying. When a poet is dead and you keep the body of the poet in the bier and the poet dies, but the words he wrote in his poetry do not die. What does it mean? Words are eternal. So here the meaning of this very expression, they live in the buyer. Words live in the buyer. What does it mean? Words are eternal. Words will words will never die away. Words will words will live forever. The eternity of words. Poets, Shakespeare died, Wordsworth died, Keats died, Shelley died, okay, Kumar Nasran died, Cherusheri died, Vailopalli passed away, and the words they used, the words they wrote is still there. And we sing Prema Kavyam, the great song of Ullur. Ullur has written that song of music, Prema Kavyam. ഒരൊറ്റ മതമുണ്ടുലകിൻ ഉലകാം പ്രേമമതം നല്ലോ പരക്ക നമ്മെ പാലാമൃതൂട്ടും പാർവണ ശശിബിംബം. ഒരൊറ്റ മതമുണ്ടുലകിൻ ഉയരാം പ്രേമം അതൊന്നല്ലോ പരക്ക നമ്മെ പാലമൃതൂട്ടും പാർവണ ശശിബിംബം. So beautiful poetry of Ullur. Ullur is no more, but he lives, his words live in poetry. That is why we say that they are very ancient and very new. They live in the buyer, hidden away, and in the budding flower. Similarly, in the budding flower you have words. What a great language I have. It's a fine language we inherited from the fierce conquistadors. Each of us inherited, learned, appropriated, accepted, and assimilated and made ours a foreign language, and the foreign language came to our country through the conquerors or conquistadors. They strode over the giant Cordillera Sea. Okay, so they strode over. The conquerors strode over. The conquerors strode over. Alexander the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte. You have, of course, Julius Caesar. You have William the Conqueror. You have so many conquerors. All these conquerors just stride over. That is, of course, like march over the huge mountains. And we have, of course, a Spanish expression that is cordilleras. Cordilleras is a Spanish expression used by the Chilean poet Neruda, and cordilleras means it is, of course, a chain of mountains like the Alps, the Himalayas, or of course any area where you have so much of elevated, like our own Kargil, Siachen area, which is, of course, rocky mountains we have, right? Similarly, so the conquerors are just marching over these huge mountains. And they are the reference is specifically to the America. They strode over the giant Cordillera Sea over the rugged Americas. Rugged Americas means the rocky Americas, the rocky, not soft, and it is not soily. There isn't much soil. They are rocky, barren, rather infertile, not very fertile land. So the conquerors or conquistadors are just marching over the rocky, uneven surface land of the Americas, hunting for. And why are they just moving that way? They pass that way because they want to get potatoes initially. So these conquistadors, the conquerors, initially just passed from place to place in search of food. But later they were just moving in search of riches, money, wealth. So hunting for potatoes, sausages, beans, everything is clear. Sausage, potato, beans, black tobacco, gold, corn, fried eggs, with a voracious appetite not found in the world since then. So from ancient period we can see the movement, the marching of the conquerors, and as they are just moving forward in search of food, wealth, and all, they take their language with them. They swallowed up everything. The conquerors swallowed up everything. British people came and swallowed the Indians' wealth. Portuguese people came, they also swallowed the wealth of the country, our country. The Dutch people came, they did the same. And similarly, the American people, the British people, they went everywhere. They went to the African continent. They went to, of course, the British Columbia. They went to the great Australia. And the indigenous people, the very native people, the tribal people, they lost their right over the land. And that is it. They swallowed up everything. The conquerors swallowed everything. Similarly, look here, we have the tribal people here. In our Attapadi, we have the tribal people. In Wayanad, Muthanya, such people, where places we have the tribal people. And the tribal people, similarly, in, of course, Chhattisgarh, we have the tribal. Every state there are tribal people. What happened? The people who came as people who migrated, okay, those who came to a particular place from another place, the migrating people, right, they just plundered and looted these people, the indigenous people, the original inhabitants of the land, and they were deprived of their food, their the jungle, the very jungle is lost. And of course right now we have Janet Armstrong, etc., and other people, like in India we have of course Medha Patkar, we have of course right, Arundhati Roy, and here in Kerala we have C.K. Janu. All these people just becoming actively involving in the rights of the indigenous people. So all this is because of the conquerors. Voracious appetite for not found in the world since then. They swallowed up everything. Conquerors swallowed up everything. They swallowed religions, pyramids, tribes, idolatries, just like the ones they brought along in their huge sacks. So these conquerors, they came to a particular place and they just destroyed the religion of that particular area, and they brought new religion. So see the British Isles. Initially, the Anglo-Saxons, they were heathens, they were pagan people. But when the Romans came, along with the Romans came Christianity. Similarly, along with the French people also came Christianity, and the country, the religion of the country is undergoing some change. Similarly, you can see that the conquerors bring new language, but they just take away, take away the property of the very country they come to. They swallowed up everything: religions, pyramids, tribes, idolatries, like the ones they brought along in their huge sacks. So they have huge sacks, and inside these sacks they can keep the wealth of the very colony, and of course from inside the sack they are just leaving behind the languages. Wherever they went, they raised the land, just like a JCB or just like a razor. They just erased the very culture of the very place they came to, and but words fell like pebbles out of the boots of the barbarians, and from the conquerors' boots words fell down, and out of their beards, from their beards as well, their helmets, their horseshoes. Horseshoe is of course the very metal device that is just nailed to the feet of horses galloping. Okay, so from the boot of these conquerors, and from the beard, and from the horseshoe of these people, words just dropped down. Luminous words, dazzling, shining English language came from the British people. Similarly, the very French language, we know about Pondicherry, and French people were there in Pondicherry. So luminous words that were left glittering here, our language. And now remember, that language of the Congress become our language. We came up losers. Why are we losers? Because our property, our rich, our raw material, everything is taken. Sometimes our culture as well is destroyed by the conquerors. We came up losers. We came up winners. Okay, one side we are losers because our wealth is lost, but the other side we are winners because we got a new language, the foreign language, and we have the words of the conqueror. So we came up winners. They carried off the gold and left us the gold. Very important. They carried off the gold. The first gold is our riches and wealth. The conquerors, the conquistadors took our wealth, but they left us gold. What is that gold? The very language, the very words of the foreigners. They carried everything off and left us everything. Yeah, they took everything that belonged to us, that belongs to us, but they left us everything. And what is that? Their language. They took our riches, they took our raw material, they took our wealth, our gold, our diamond, everything, but they left us their language. And that is it. They carried off the gold and left us the gold, they carried everything off and left us everything. They left us the words, and at last we have said that they left us the words. They left us the words. The conquerors, the conquistadors left us the words, and words is everything. Everything exists in the word. And now that, although they took away all the property, all our property, we are not upset, we are not worried, because they left us everything. Because that is, of course, words. Everything exists in the word, and hence we can say that we don't have to be disappointed, because we have language, and language is everything. Language is very creative, language is symbolic, language is potential, language is the great social phenomena, and with this great social phenomena of language, we can make miracles, and we can, of course, just get back whatever we lost, if at all the conquerors or the conquistadors have taken something. And in this poem, the word Pablo Neruda is just praising the great power of words. So words are very powerful, and with words you can make miracle, you can make, of course, splendid, marvelous things. Everything exists in the word. Okay, and this poem is, of course, noted for its poetic beauty, enriched with a number of figures of speech, enriched with a lot of images. Very beautiful poetry. Next session we will be discussing the images and the very poetic language used by the poet Pablo Neruda. So with this, we just come to the discussion of the poem. Next session will be, of course, looking at the poetic quality of the great extract, the word of Pablo Neruda, taken from his autobiography or the memory. Thank you so much.